for my job is what I have to do is show that we, as a law enforcement agency for the police bureau specifically, are showing proof. I'm gathering documents. I'm showing incident reports. I'm showing supervisors' actions. All different kinds of things that we are abiding by those 110 standards.
Hey, welcome back. Episode number 97 of Behind the Badge here at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office in Rochester, New York. My co-host is back this week. Tiz, how are you?
Hey, doing good. Like I said, went through a couple things.
Sorry about
had
that,
a passing of a family member.
Very sorry.
But things are all good. Life goes on. And here we are with
know.
another podcast, sir. And not just that, the 97th
97th.
podcast. Unbelievable.
I think we're getting old. How long have we been doing these? 97. That's a lot of information sharing with the public, and that's the whole intent behind the badge, right? See what's behind the badge and who is behind the badge and organizational things and people that support us. But one of the supports I always fail to plug is Tommy Burnett with that bumper music because we're coming in from Fairport, New York, and he donated it.
Nice
Yeah,
plug.
it gets
Nice
you going,
plug.
doesn't it? Tommy's good people. His whole family's good people, and it's good to have those folks around us that behind the badge who supports us, and he's one of them. And today we're talking about accreditation. You excited?
Yeah, I'm hyped. I mean, because there are a lot of things, like we spoke offline a little bit.
Right.
There are a lot of things that I didn't know what went into accreditation, and I didn't really know what it was all about. Like we talked offline. I'm thinking, I hear accreditation, I'm thinking of, am I getting college credits or what's going on? But the thing about it is, it's far beyond that. And there are a lot of people out there who don't know. So this is one of the episodes that's gonna touch a lot of eyes out there.
Yeah, and there needs to be a checks and balance system in organizations, in particular organizations that have a lot of power. Like law enforcement. And we have an accreditation manager. Denise, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Great to see you.
Thank you.
Great having you here.
Thanks for having
You're
me.
loving this, aren't you?
I credit you.
Plead the Fifth Amendment right out
I
the
credit you.
That makes bad radio, by the way, if you just say no comment.
This is quite a challenge to get accreditation on a podcast.
Yeah, we're going to do it.
It's enlightening for many, I'm sure.
And that's what Tiz just said. People have no idea what we do to keep ourselves as professional as possible. So how about a little bit about yourself? And if you don't mind bragging upon your sons a little bit about their service to our country, I'd appreciate that. I know as a proud mom, Blue Star mom, you'd more than glad to do that.
I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah,
well, I was a deputy with the Sheriff's Department in the Jail Bureau for 26 years. I retired, and then the then Commander, Jansen McNair, brought me in to accreditation. I didn't know anything about accreditation. I had worked in training, and so I got touched by accreditation in there. So I understood a little bit, but I'm like, I have no idea. So he brought me in, and that was in 2019. So I've been doing that accreditation since then. Learned an enormous amount of about the police and the jail bureau because I do the accreditation for both of those bureaus. I am married to a veteran. I have two sons who, my oldest son is 23, and he's currently stationed active duty in Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Thank you.
Yes.
101st Airborne.
Ooh.
And my younger son is graduating from Clarkson University this spring, and he's on an ROTC program, so he'll be committing himself to 5 years as an engineer with the Army.
Oh, did he branch already?
And
He knows what branch he's going to?
he's going to engineer, yeah.
Oh, good. So my son was ROTC, Zach, and he's over in Germany. And just living afar with him. We're hoping to go over and visit, but it's an experience for families now. When I was in Korea, I talked to my family twice in 1 year. That was it. 2 phone calls. I tell you, this is before cell phones, right?
Yeah.
Now we're FaceTiming. We're if he's not out in the field.
Crazy.
And we plan on going over and enjoying his experience with him, which again is just how it's changed. So, yeah, you could go to Watertown anytime, but tell him to go south if he can. But well, it's great, and thanks for the your service and your family's service. Obviously, it's a good bloodline.
Enjoyed every bit of it.
You worked in the jail.
I came out good.
I know, exactly.
I got a good head on my shoulders.
And
so.
you can,
yeah,
and it's a difficult work
decision
environment.
to do that.
Thank you. But it's not easy, and you got to work at that because it's a difficult work environment. Anything with a blue uniform on right now is difficult. Well,
Yes.
That's awesome.
So let me ask you this now. like you said, 26 years in the jail. Now, how long were you in the process of being a civilian again and doing accreditation now so far?
Well, I retired May 30th of 2019, and I started accreditation in July of that year as a civilian. So I had a month off, and I couldn't wait to get back to work because that was just way too long of a vacation. Civilian life is a very different process. It is a challenge to go from being in a uniform
Right.
to having the clothes. There's advantages to it for sure.
Right.
But it's a different way of thinking for sure.
So you had to come back because you were getting bored really quick. But I thought Jansen was just a good recruiter. That's the story.
He was a good
He's a good recruiter.
Yeah.
So we
he
put
is.
that myth to bed then. So it was more your idea. Gotcha. I gave him the talent award. And, we got her to come back to do what? Oh my God, that's pretty cool. And accreditation. So what is it? I mean, the average Joe and Jane are listening to this going, as Jansen said earlier, or Jansen, I'm sorry, Tisdale. Jansen's on my mind for some reason. I must have a complaint waiting. He works OPI now.
You said it like
so-
4 or 5 times already.
I did now. Bleep. How about just explain what is accreditation? So what's that mean? And I'll call Jansen later and ask him the real story. So what's accreditation?
So for the Police Bureau specifically, the New York State Sheriff's Accreditation Program, New York State Law Enforcement, I got to remember it because we call it nicely because
Right.
it's a nice short, because it's too long to say New York State Law Enforcement Accreditation Program. But they're the governing umbrella body for accreditation for the Police Bureau. There's 110 standards that they have come up with, and they're kind of governed by the Department of Criminal Justice, also for New York State. But they're the whole bodying agency who looks at the Police Bureau, and for all the law enforcement agencies within the state of New York who voluntarily want to be part of this program have 110 standards that they have to show proof that they're abiding by. The standards are being looked at every year. They change. There's been some hot button topics over this last couple of years where they've either revised the standards or added new ones, taken away some. So they're constantly looking at it. For my job, is what I have to do is show that we, as a law enforcement agency for the Police Bureau specifically, are showing proof. I'm gathering documents. I'm showing incident reports. I'm showing supervisors' actions, all different kinds of things that we are abiding by those 110 standards each year.
Each year.
Well, I think that's a great thing because, guys out here who watch the video and things like that, they learn as well what accreditation means. And out there, they know that the Sheriff's Department, at least, you got to run in some kind of form.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And you guys help keep the Sheriff's Department operating in that type of optimal type of run merit, what you're doing now, whatever. And the accreditation, I mean, once you gather the accreditation, how long does it last?
Forever. When I gather the proofs.
Right.
So, nice sleep now, and just to backtrack a little bit, for the court, for the civil and the jail, their governing body is the New York State Sheriff's Association. Pretty much the same thing happens, though. They have their own, each bureau has their own set of standards that they have to abide by to get these proofs. So in all these cases, though, all 4 bureaus, each 5 years, there's assessors from those governing bodies that come on site, and they stay for 2-3 days, and they look at all of the files and all the information I've been collecting, but they also go out there and they talk to the deputies and they make sure they know what they're doing. They interview training officers, they interview instructors, they interview the administration. They just look at every aspect of the Bureau itself, pretty much more so than even just the standards. They make sure that everything is running smoothly and everybody knows their job. And it's a really great thing, number one, because it is voluntary.
Right.
There's 514 law enforcement agencies in the state of New York, and only like 164 are actually accredited.
Wow.
So it's a volunteer thing, but they have to do this process every year. They have to gather these documents. They have to have the on-site assessors coming every 5 years to give us our nice certificates saying you're doing a good job. And so it's a really good thing. Monroe County, we have 12 law enforcement agencies, and all 12 of them are accredited. So we have a really strong accreditation area.
And we're the only county in New York State that every law enforcement entity is
Oh,
accredited.
I didn't
We're
even
the
realize
first to
that.
do that, right? But it's becoming mandatory through the process through the governor's executive order that every police department will become accredited or lose funding from New York State, which is, in other words, you become accredited. So there's a big push on for something that we've voluntarily done for decades, if you will. Everybody in Monroe County, let alone us. And Tiz, just coming from the court bureau, did you realize you guys were accredited by the Sheriff's Association? You mentioned earlier, do the deputies know, this
Yes,
is great?
yes.
Yeah, good, okay.
But I love this because I didn't know what all entailed and, what actually it is. I heard of accreditation, but I didn't know exactly what the merits of it is or what everything was. And that's why I was kind of glad that we had this podcast today. And the guys out there watching as well, it kind of lets them know that these guys are running in a certain formation and it's not just willy-nilly, which I love the fact that we're doing this now as opposed to, like you said, once it becomes mandatory.
Right.
So how hard is it to get all your ducks in a row after it becomes mandatory?
There's a lot of people scrambling.
Hey.
Yes. I mean, it's
maintenance
great.
too. You do a lot of maintenance. I mean, that's
It is.
probably
It's
the
a
majority
lot
of your job,
of
right?
work. It is a lot
Maintaining
of
it.
gathering of information and it's great for us because you have an accredited person who's dedicated to the job.
Right.
There's smaller law enforcement agencies that aren't going to have the beauty of being able to have someone. They're going to have to assign someone, probably a supervisor, who's going to have to take away. So it's going to be quite a task.
You're a blessing. Yeah, I'll say it.
Okay.
You're a blessing to us. And you got to have the personality to do this. I mean, this is tough work. Your job is to make sure we're running straight. So that means when you see something not going correct, your job is to make people aware of that and let them know the
Correct.
standards. And again, that could be a difficult position, especially in a paramilitary organization.
It's
a skill.
That is a communication skill
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
It doesn't work sometimes, but
That's all right. I got your back.
Is there typically a time frame that you're given to come into compliance with this or, during the whole process of it?
So with the standards, we have to show compliance every year. So I have that year to show compliance. Now, there are some times when things like, for instance, COVID.
Right.
And I'll give you an example. It was tough to get the correct training hours because we weren't able to gather.
Right.
So, of course, New York State is going to kind of go back. And so in the year 2020 and 2021, we have to give an annual report. And in that annual report, I did state that we were not able to comply with the acquired hours of training due to gathering. We had to make it up, through DMS or online training and try to get creative in other ways. But they understood, and I'm sure we were not the only agency to be able to comply with that. But, I mean, that's just an example.
Yeah.
Now we're right back on board, and as long as they came to their assessment, which was in 2021, we were in compliance with everything, so.
Well, I appreciate it. I think it's very important any professional organization looks within and is able to call it when we're doing it well, but also able to call it when we're not doing so well, and that just keeps us more professional. Another thing about accreditation I try and emphasize is it adds efficiency to the organization, right? If we have standards and we have compliance to those standards, overall that is, the gears are gelling and meshing that much easier. When you have that willy-nilly,
Right.
it causes confusion in organizations, any organization. So it's a lot of work. We've dedicated a full-time staff member to it, right? You're full-time now?
Part-time.
I know. We'd love to have you full-time, but whatever. Well, we roll some B-roll, as we call it in the media world, but, show you working. I know you're loving this video. She says. Who's your partner deputy there?
That is Deputy Katie Thomas,
She's awesome.
who is the training unit coordinator for the police bureau.
All right. And we joked offline about these color codes. This is so important. They come in and the first thing they're looking at is these colors and what that means. There's so much organization and structure to this thing.
It is all about organizing. So the color codes is, it means something to the standard, and then when the assessor actually comes on site and looks through my files, I color code all the answers within our policy that answer the standard. So it just makes it a quicker reference for them rather than having to read a 13-page policy.
Right.
They're going to go right to
right
where
to
the
that.
color code is and it answers the standard.
That's
So
good. I like that.
that's nice sleeps request though. I didn't come up, I can't take the credit for that one.
Oh, you should have taken it. No.
Yeah, I think it's and when they come and they re-accredited us, they inspect. I mean, they're here to coach. They're here to find, if you will, errors. But it's not all about the errors. It's all about, and sometimes we're allowed to solve those while they're still here. I mean, we can fix some
Yes.
things. And
Yeah.
so the fact that they identified and we're fixing it almost immediately just again adds to the
Yes.
efficiency of the organization.
Right, right. And that's why I said with the process of other agencies not in that yet and eventually going in that direction, I can just imagine. I mean, the scrambling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To get everything in code, and we're already doing that here. So that makes things so much easier for it. And like you said, once you got that machine running in a certain type of run mode, it'll continue in that run mode and makes things so much easier for you to have that answer for this if this goes wrong or this for that. And I love the fact that, and you're on top of that with the color coding. That is, to me, simple as it is, that's brilliant.
She invented it. I don't know if I told you. Her and Jansen.
Yeah.
You're right.
Gonna have to give them a plug.
Oh, he's going to be. He's over there going, how did I get in this show? Why do they keep on talking about it? I don't even work there anymore.
Well, let me ask you, what are some of the important standards that we do meet here at the Sheriff's Department?
Well, for instance, just in 2022, the state gave us for the police bureau, and they have generated to all bureaus for the sheriff's office. All the bureaus are concerned about the health and welfare, number one, of the employees, and number two, of the people that are in our custody.
Right.
And those two standards have become paramount, specifically with the police bureau. It's a hot topic. And you were ahead of the game with the officer wellness and the health and with the prior podcast that we did. That became a standard, officer wellness, with us for this year. So that's stuff, and it's been nice because I've had so much material to be able to
Right.
gather on that because you were ahead of the game, honestly, with
There's a
that.
big we here.
It's
It's a
well,
big we.
it's
Trust me.
it's great. So officer wellness has been a big factor, which has been awesome. The health and safety, again, of those people that are in our custody and care, and that's with the jail, that's in the court, that's the civil bureau when they're out there, it's the police. It's been a huge hot topic, and so, again, that's been very easy for me to gather a lot of information because we do so well with it. We have so much training. The training that we do is phenomenal. I can't even say enough about that because it's just been so easy for me to gather information because of the amount of training that we do and the quality, not only the quality but the quantity of training we do. It's been great for us in that respect. So those are two big ones.
Yeah, you think about our history, like recent history, and use of force was a big one,
Yes.
and adjustments made at the state level, driven down through accreditation process, like for instance, de-escalation and training in de-escalation, but also documenting that you're doing the training. What is your policy? It wasn't a heavy lift for us to make those adjustments. Because we've traditionally done that type of training. We might not have put that term on it, but we definitely did withdrawals or technique tap outs, things like that. But the fact is, it wasn't a heavy lift where some departments are scrambling to how are we going to throw this in the middle of our curriculum. We have good curriculum, so all we can do is make
Yes.
adjustments.
Yep.
Do you notice Tiz's coffee mug over here?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the guys in the studio that put everything together. 97 episodes, guys,
Yeah.
and I got my first drink of water.
And young gentleman, Mateo, just left us, and that was a plug for him. They rose my water for
Whenever I write
97.
him a letter.
Wrote him a letter, so. Well, that's awesome. Anything you want to add about accreditation as we wrap up the show?
No,
No?
I
Anything
appreciate.
you need?
No.
This is your time.
I wish I would have known that question was coming. I would have made a list.
We got to put that one in the no Miranda zone.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Yeah, that'd be a good question. Anything you need, it'll stump everybody. So, Tiz, why don't we finish up with that no Miranda? At least you can't leave easy here. So you got to.
Like the sheriff said, the no Miranda zone is where we throw some questions at you, try to put you on the spot just a little bit, but it's a friendly spot.
Sure is.
So one thing, let me start off with this one. Just easy stuff for you. favorite takeout food?
Gosh, I don't even eat takeout.
Wow.
I'm gonna, and the only reason why I'm saying this is because my younger son begs me to go to Taco Bell every single
Really?
time he's in
Oh
town.
my God, Taco Bell.
Oh, boy.
So I went there the first time not too long ago. Taj, she's living with us from Haiti, and we did Taco Bell. Like it was probably 1:30 in the morning. We're coming home really late for
Oh
some
my
event.
God.
Yeah, thank you. It was like a frat party in the drive-thru. It was like all 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
Maybe been drinking. I
That
don't
or a
know.
garbage plate.
Yeah,
though.
garbage plates.
Now that
There-
you gave me a second to think, garbage plate, I gotta say.
Mr. Tahoe, thanks you for that.
I know, right?
That's awesome.
Big Tahoe.
If you're going to binge watch TV programs, what are you going to watch?
Sopranos.
Oh, I like that. I like
Nothing to do with all those vowels in your name, was it?
I'm married to it.
that. Last book you've read?
The Accreditation Manual.
The last one I just finished was a biography on Saint Faustina.
What is her era? When was she alive?
She early 1900s.
Okay.
She died right before World War II, and had some pretty amazing predictions.
Predictions, what's about to occur.
Yeah,
How scary is that?
that was
Right.
it. Was
And it-
cool.
I couldn't imagine living in those times when you see that unfolding right in front of you, this oppression coming at you and the military buildup and how scary it had, let alone when they executed, the movements forward. But people saw it, people heard it, people knew it, and couldn't do much about it. It just seems so, that's nerve-wracking. Well, on that light note, we're going to finish up the podcast. And that's how you make accreditation interesting. See, that wasn't that hard to do. That was good.
My hands are sweating.
Well, on behalf of Tisdale and Jansen and myself, we'd like to thank you for joining our episode here.
Thanks.
Cindy. It's great having you. So
I'm gonna get a call from Jansen. That's great.
I hope you do. It was all intentional then. But thanks for joining us. Thanks for what you do. We
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Thank
All right.
you.
Have a good one.
Right. Bye.